If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Korrus Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Korrus Sims.
Welcome to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Martin Moore-Ede, MD, PhD. Dr. Moore, what do you like to be called, Dr. Moore?
Well, Moore-Ede is how it's pronounced.
Moore-Ede. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Martin Moore-Ede, MD, PhD. And what do you like to be called? Dr. Moore-Ede?
You can do that once in a while, but you can call me Martin. That is just fine.
Martin is fine. Oh, okay.
And I'll call you Carissa, okay?
Yes. Sounds like a plan. I like that.
Okay.
Martin is a leading world expert on circadian clocks and light. As a professor at Harvard Medical School, he located the human circadian clock. That is incredible. I'm so impressed. In 2010, he founded the CIRCADIAN Light Research Center, which identified the key blue wavelengths that control the circadian clock and patented and developed the first evidence-based healthy circadian lights. The Light Doctor is also on Substack, and I'll put the link in the show notes. Welcome, Martin.
Good. Well, delighted to be with you.
Yes, I'm so excited and to hear about your research, and also that you created a product from this. So I'm really excited for our audience to learn more about the truth of lighting. And I also have a personal passion about this. I don't know if I told you, but I worked with corporations in ergonomics, and eye strain and lighting was one of the things that I addressed. So this is like so serendipitous, and I'm really excited to hear about your research. How did you first become interested in the effects of lighting? I would say the detrimental effects.
Well, it was really when I was graduated out of medical school, and my first job, I was going to become a surgeon, and I got into one of the surgical residency programs. And I found myself working as a junior surgeon for 36 hours nonstop on my feet, off for 12 to grab some rest, back in for 36 and so forth, all under bright fluorescent lights in those days.
Oh my gosh. Now, was that like your internship or residency?
Basically internship. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because I know it's really intense for medical students.
Right. And that got me interested. I was sort of interested in circadian rhythms. And I decided to take a detour out of that surgical training. I finished my initial part of my surgical residency and took a detour to do a PhD at Harvard Medical School, really looking at what was behind these circadian rhythms. Now, at that time, there was no knowledge about a circadian clock that had not been discovered.
Yeah. And what year was that?
Well, this is back in about 1970 time frame.
That makes sense.
And by 72, a little bit later, it was identified in hamsters and rats, the circadian clock.
Mm-hmm.
But it had not been recognized in humans, no proof that it existed in humans. And that was one of the things we were able to show where it existed and how it worked. And also, very importantly, that it was synchronized by light coming in through the eyes. That again was not believed to be the case. In fact, the scientists at that time, the leaders in the field, thought humans kept sync by sort of social interactions or some other things going on that kept us in sync. But it in fact proved to be light. So we really were able to prove the basic fundamentals at that time. And I went on with Harvard building on the faculty of Harvard as a professor, building a lab. We identified much of the mechanisms, what happens when the clock system gets disrupted and all the ill health problems that occurs. So we were able to discover that. And then I started applying that into industry. So my career, Carissa, has really been getting into the basic research, coming into the applications of how that works, applying it then in industry, developing then business to actually make it happen. In other words, commercialize it and make it a real reality. And I did that with, first of all, with shift work and how people work shifts around the clock. And my company called CIRCADIAN, founded 42 years ago, is the leader in, how you keep people working night shifts and around the clock, whether it's flying planes or trains or oil fields or wherever it is. How do you keep manufacturing? How do you keep those people healthy? Then around early 2000s, the research started to come out saying that people who were having light at night, not just people who are working shifts at night and working at night, but also people, if they happen to leave the lights on in the bedroom, were getting much higher rates of breast cancer, for example, in women.
Oh, fascinating.
And so there were 50% increased rates to breast cancer and prostate cancer then. And then it would, then more and more the evidence came, diabetes and heart disease and obesity coming from exposure to light at night. Now, this was a big, big problem for I was consulting by that time through CIRCADIAN with half the Fortune 500 companies. They say, we can't shut down our business at night. We can't switch off the lights. What can we do? And that brought me back to the lab again to basically try to figure out what was the problem. And fortunately, we were able to discover it was actually a rather small part of the light spectrum. The light spectrum is full of all the colors of the rainbow. It was just the sky blue part of the light spectrum that was causing the problem. And so the obvious answer was to build lights, develop technology and LEDs and lights that had no blue in them. And lo and behold, we're able to fix the problem and cure the problem. And then, of course, we formed a company and went off and did that. And now, just to complete the full story, I'm now trying to educate people about this huge impact of our LED lights that are having on our health, a big negative impact, and educate people about healthy lighting and where to find it, and also encouraging manufacturers to build these healthy lights so that we can really solve this problem. It's one of the big health problems of our time, but we'll get into that.
Oh, that's interesting. So I really wish I would have met you when I started my career in ergonomics, consulting to Fortune 500 companies 20 years ago. So it's interesting that I'm just connecting with you now, but that's okay. I had a few questions. Where is the circadian clock located based on your research?
Right. It's in an old part of the brain called the hypothalamus. It's connected directly to the eyes. And if we look at the mechanisms, we know that in the eyes, there are cells that contain a photopigment that is exquisitely sensitive to sky blue light. And those cells are called IPRGCs, or intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. That's the technical term. But these contain a photopigment called melanopsin. And melanopsin is a light-sensitive protein that just detects just this sky blue light. It doesn't care about the red light or the violet light or the green light. It just looks for blue. Now, natural daylight is full of blue light. And nighttime, of course, there's no light or certainly no significant blue. And in the old days, when we had wood fires and candles, there was no blue in wood fires and candles. So what we've changed is we've brought in blue-rich lights, which are the fluorescents, and then more recently the LEDs, because of energy efficiency. In other words, we think we're doing good by saving some electricity, but actually we're doing tons of harm with these blue lights in terms of the increased risk of health. So, recent papers just came out this week showing 30-40% increased risks of heart attacks, of strokes, of cardiovascular disease in people who have exposed to light at night. And as I say, this is not necessarily people working the night shift. Worst thing you can do is leave the lights in the bedroom on, and too many people do that. So yeah, there's a big effect of this, and that's what we're trying to address, and we've been able to address it.
Yeah. So, and just talking about leaving the lights on in the bedroom, what about, I mean, I don't know if you know about this. What about a night light or a secondary light, like a light in the hallway or down the way? Have they done studies to show that that also has effects?
Well, the question is, does it have any blue in it? So if it's
Okay, so that's
if it's an
all you want to
orange,
know. Got it.
orange, I want it dim, and I want it with orange and red color, and then you're fine. So you
I
can
see.
have, and you want to find your way to the bathroom without falling over the furniture. Basically, but as long as, and ideally it's near the floor, ideally it needs to be orange or red type colored. And they're readily available, those night lights.
Yeah.
And you
With
just need,
orange and red, how do you know? Do you have to buy your lights or are
no, there are plenty of lights out there doing that.
okay.
We offer a whole package for the ultimate circadian bedroom on our Substack for our paid subscribers to the Substack. And
Nice.
this consists of lights for your light bulbs, which automatically change between blue-rich daytime, blue-free nights, and red in the middle of the night automatically. We've got a copy of my book to read, of course, a book light, which only so you read the book under orange light, so you don't have that effect. And
Oh my gosh.
and a supply of these things you can put into plugs. So basically, you get the whole deal. You can equip your bedroom.
Oh,
All for joining as a paid
yeah.
subscriber to my Substack, which is
Oh, okay,
light
yeah.
light
Do you want to,
lightdoctorsubstack.com.
you have to be a subscriber, or do you also have a website where people could just order it? Like,
Well,
why don't you
you can,
share it now?
the Substack is Light Doctor, the Light Doctor at Substack.com, and I think it's in the links I sent you. You can paste to
Yes.
this. You can also on the Circadian store, it's also available there, www.circadian.com/store. So there are
Okay.
more than one place that you can get it, but basically, and my book, of course, is called The Light Doctor, and that's at
Yes.
thelightdoctor.com.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. So I was also curious about the spectrum of blue light because I've heard about the detrimental effects of blue light, and I also heard that we can get it through technology, through our phones, through computers, through portable devices. So is that sky blue light also present in our screens?
It is. It's in our screens as well as our light bulbs. And so, yeah, that's one of the challenges. And there are now screens getting developed which don't have any blue in them in the evening. I mean, this
Oh
is where we
my
need to go.
gosh.
So
What are those?
the technology it's being developed by a company called Korrus, Korrus.
Oh, but it's in development. It's not
That's
released
in
yet.
development, yeah. And I mean, it works, and it just basically, we've got to get people away from the standard blue pump LEDs. And the problem there, Carissa, is there's a certain measurement that's used for so-called energy efficiency, and it's called lumens per watt. Lumens a measure of how bright the light is,
Yep.
and watts is a measure of electricity, obviously.
I used to
And
have
lumens
a
per,
light measuring device.
right.
And,
So
and
yeah,
there's a range, but the problem with measuring it at a corporation, the light, is, people have different tolerances, I've found. It's
yeah.
very individual. But
Well, the
anyway.
Well, the crazy thing about this measurement, lumens, is actually only a measure of brightness and only a measure of the yellow and green parts of the spectrum.
Okay.
The lumens does not measure whether it's got blue in it or got red in it. And in fact, much of the health of light is associated with different colors. Each part of the spectrum has a different health thing. It is, and so if you maximize lumens per watt, you end up with this very artificial LED spectrum that most LEDs are. They've got a big spike at about 450 in the blue and the royal blue. They've got a big hump around the yellow and the green, but they do not provide the wavelengths which we know the eyes need. And how do we know that? Well, there are certain, as I say, we talked about melanopsin being one of the opsins in the eye, but there are other opsins in the eye, and we know where they are, but we don't light them up. Now, natural daylight lights all this up and gives us full health. But if you don't get any deep violet light, you don't get light that's in the 380 range, then kids get myopia. So that's a real issue.
Okay, what
And
is just can we explain what myopia is? So you're saying if we don't get enough natural light, which is going outside, being out in the sun, but does the sun need to be out or is it just being outside in general?
in just being outside in general, but the
Okay,
outside, whether if it's a bright sunny day, you might get 50,000 lux of light. If it's a cloudy day, you may get 10,000. But
I
that's
see.
so much higher than what you get indoors. Most people indoors are 100 to 500 maybe lux of light, 10,000 on a cloudy day. And what more, when you go outside, you get the full spectrum. You get the ultraviolet, you get the all the colors of the rainbow that are comprised of white light, right?
Okay.
And you also get the infrared. And it turns
Except
out
for the
all of
sky
the
blue, that's
yeah,
detrimental, right?
the sky blue is no. Let's get that one fixed.
Okay.
Sky blue is healthy during the day. You want to see as much as you can during the daytime.
Okay.
You want to avoid it like the plague at night. It is the signal. Remember, these are the receptors in the
Oh,
eyes. These receptors in the eye are looking for sky blue. When they see sky blue, they say daytime active. Let's get energetic. Let's do all those things there. When they see no sky blue, they switch into recovery, request mode. We bring out the melatonin. We suppress our cancer cells. Melatonin is a great cancer suppressor. We do all sorts of repair processes in the body. But if you see blue light, you switch off all those repair processes. And that's why we get all this ill health when people see blue rich light at night.
oh, I see. I'm also a cancer survivor. So I don't currently have cancer in my body, so it's in remission. But I didn't know about this before I was diagnosed. In 2020, I was diagnosed. So I find it fascinating that this could have been one of the contributing factors.
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, just go through some of the things. Take breast cancer in women, for example.
Mhm.
Before electric light was invented, it was extremely rare disease. Very few women ever got breast cancer. Now it's the most common
Fascinating.
cause. Now it's the most common cause of cancer in women.
Yes.
As lights got introduced more and more, breast cancer rates increased more and more. We could say, well, that's maybe a coincidence, except,
Yeah.
then you go to the parts of the world where there's no electrification, like in Africa and places where electricity isn't
Right.
reached.
Southeast Asia, maybe.
They have very low rates of breast cancer, very low.
Interesting.
But in the places that most intensely lit, where dense population areas, the eastern part of the United States, Western Europe, you've got 140 cases per 100,000 women as compared to only 20 in Africa or in the years before lights came along. And then what's more, blind women. Women who are totally blind from an early age rarely get breast cancer. So it
Wow.
so it all
That is
adds
a,
together. And we know
yeah.
the mechanisms, and we know because we can actually show in the lab with rat studies, you can take human breast cancer, put it and plant it on rats. It will grow in when the lights on at night. It will suppress when the lights are off at night. You can infuse blood from women who are sitting in the light at night and therefore got low levels of melatonin. The cancer rate will grow in the rats. But if you take light from women who are sitting in the dark and melatonin levels are high, melatonin-rich blood will suppress it. So we know a whole lot about this, and it's amazing because much of breast cancer research is ignoring that area. People are concerned about toxins in the environment, and they're
Oh,
concerned about all
yeah.
sorts of things. But this is one that really needs to get paid attention. And
I've
it's a
never
pretty
heard
big effect.
this. And I
Yeah,
did a lot of research on cancer. It
right,
was just like you came into my life, and I
right.
was like, wow.
Well, in my book, The Light Doctor, I have a whole chapter on this as an example. So
Okay.
it's a pretty dramatic thing. So yeah,
It's amazing. You know, lights really bother me. And just in general, like I feel energy drain. And I'm a podcaster and I'm also a host for hire. So I need to be lit up. And so now that I'm having this awareness of the negative effects of the LED or the sky blue light, the frequency, it's like I am really feeling it because I have to take a break. Like I can't do too many interviews in a day when I'm all lit up because I'll start to feel heavy and I'll get a headache there. And also I don't do lighting above my head. So anyway, I don't know if you have any comments about that versus like a lamp versus overhead.
well, a lot of people are sensitive to light.
Hmm.
The cells in the body that I talked about, the receptors at the back of the eyes that are detecting this light, are actually largely in the bottom half of your eyes. So they're detecting light from above. They're much more sensitive to light from above than
I
light coming
see.
in from the bottom or side. That's why I mentioned putting lights near the floor. They have relatively little effect because they don't hit that part of the eye that's detecting the blue quite so much. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
yeah.
Or a lamp. And you have those, do you have items on your website? Well, I look forward to exploring your website that are for like film and TV that can like light stands that can light people up in a safe way.
Well, the general site, by the way, I'm going to give you another website, circadianlight.org, and that's where I've got the various access to the various products that are available,
Okay.
and links to them and so forth. So we can, people can look at that. And that's
Okay.
also where we do our campaigns, because one of the problems we're facing is government regulations that are promoting lumens per watt and are going to make it illegal to sell healthy lighting, which is nuts, absolutely nuts. But that's something we're
Oh,
campaigning against because you can't. The problem is if you measure lumens and it's just the yellow and green, and you reward people who produce the most yellow and green, but if you produce red or infrared or other parts of the spectrum, you penalize, you end up with unhealthy light. So it's crazy. The natural light spectrum's very full spectrum.
oh, okay.
The LED is very narrow spectrum. So we've got what we call it's junk bright light, basically, is what we're being sold today.
Wow, that's fascinating. And so it's interesting. Why do you think the government is pushing this? Because they're so focused on energy efficiency and saving money, saving people money, like or lasting, making sure the light bulbs last. Why are they pushing this and avoiding healthy lighting and not looking at your research?
Well, the issue has been the climate lobby has been very active, and as you know, and it's had a big effect. And
Mhm.
they think they're doing good with the lights. Now, the electricity you use in your home for lighting is only about 6% or less of the total power you use in your home. Much more power is used in your air conditioning systems and your stove and whatever else you
Mhm.
have, the equipment, right? Heating and everything else. But they think they're saving money. But the point is they've got the wrong metric, and it's dumb. It's done by engineers who don't know any biology or any medicine, and they're promoting a metric which is it's 100-year-old measurement of the brightness of light. So essentially what they're doing is pushing us into cheap bright light or low electricity using bright light. So how much bright light you can get for the least electricity, and ending up with very unhealthy light. We banned, for example, incandescent light bulbs a couple of years ago. We banned halogens as a result of these regulations.
Yeah,
Why?
incandescent is healthier. Incandescent and halogen are healthier.
Yeah, healthier, particularly since they produce a lot of the near infrared, which we now know is really critical for mitochondrial function. Those are the energy cell
Oh,
producers in our body, in the cells of our body. So
oh yeah.
infrared
It,
light is enormously healing.
yes, and people
And
have the masks now,
right, yeah,
infrared masks.
and what happens is they banned the incandescent light bulb, which produced a lot of infrared because it was quote unquote inefficient. It didn't produce yellow and green as much. So basically, we've got into this wild world of regulations, do-gooding regulations, but totally ill-informed, that are now leading us to into the world of very unhealthy lighting. So this is something we've got to do. I'm having conversations with the climate lobby and saying, look, guys, you're driving this into a ridiculous area. We also have a conversation at the other side of the spectrum with the MAHA, Make America Healthy Again
Uh-huh.
lobby. We got to get the two together to solve this problem and not end up with a very false metric that's driving us into more and more unhealthy light.
Yeah, yeah, like bringing them together
Yeah,
because sometimes it seems like they have separate agendas.
they do. But on this subject, I think it's somewhere we're all, saving the health of the planet is crazy if you end up with impairing the health of the people living on the planet. That's nuts.
Are you from the UK originally?
Originally, yes, I was indeed. Yeah, my accent is probably somewhere mid-Atlantic right now.
Oh, got it. Okay, I see.
It floats.
So, do you recommend, so I have heard that it's good to close your eyes and look at the sun first thing in the morning for like a minute. I've heard that there are beneficial effects of sunning. What do you think about that process? Is that something that you ever recommend?
No, not exactly. What I
Okay.
do recommend is getting out in daylight, sunlight in the mornings. That is
Okay.
actually,
Just
and
getting
that's what you
out
want to
there,
do.
but not
Getting out
looking at
there,
the
but
sun.
not
Okay.
looking at, that's too dangerous to look at the sun. It's not, and indeed, people can always go on anything can go overboard, right? So people think you have to get up at dawn and see the sun rise. Actually, what that does to our clocks, it resets us in toward it sends us basically towards Europe time from America. In other words, it pushes you into getting up earlier and earlier and earlier, which is not actually terribly smart.
I
But
see.
you want to get out in the morning because that's the time we need a solid dose of blue rich light.
Yeah,
It's also the time when infrared light coming in from the sun. By the way, the infrared rays, some of them pass all the way through the human body and out the other side. So every cell in our body is bathed with these infrared from natural light because it's bright enough to do that from sunlight. And that is hugely healing. So there's a whole healing process of getting out, particularly in the mornings. Now, I'll tell you one example why this matters. Just is quite dramatic. Um, Patients who are near windows get out of hospital much faster, particularly south-facing windows or southeast-facing
oh,
windows.
so even
Pa
looking out the window, not even, or having the indirect light coming
yeah,
through is beneficial because I
is
have a window right here. That's fascinating
now it
because I
depends on
thought you
the
had to go outside.
well, should go outside. It's always better to go outside. But even indoors, provided there's not too much of this energy of blocking window, taking out too much of the healthy parts of the light. You want to get outside. But even if you are inside, like hospital patients who are stuck inside, what then happens is if you take a group of psychiatric patients, it's been done several times now, into a hospital where one side of the floor has windows facing south and east, and the other side is facing north and south. The patient's admitted to the windows facing south and east, getting the morning sunlight coming in through the window. will get out of hospital, those psychiatric conditions, that's major depressions, anxiety, PTSD, get out in half the time compared to the ones who never see the morning sunlight because they're on the northwest facing windows. Same drugs, same doctors, same therapy sessions, same conditions. It's huge, right? So that's again a bit of the evidence that even if you're indoors, being near getting exposed to sunlight coming in through the windows is enormously healthy. Much better to get outside if you can, because you get a really decent dose of it. Then it's cut down when it comes in through the windows. But
Yeah.
it is, but people who are in offices or windowless rooms or cubicles back, in an office floor, sleep more poorly, get a half an hour to an hour less sleep than those people who are sitting next to the window in an office. So it very much, we are creatures of light. It's not a new finding. Florence Nightingale knew it in 1860 in her book. She knew that patients who exposed to light got better, sunlight got better sooner than those that didn't. By the turn of the century, hospitals had sun decks where they put all the patients out in the sun. And it's only when antibiotics came along that people thought we could now solve these problems with antibiotics and put everyone back inside again.
Oh my God.
We're missing a major thing right now.
Oh my gosh. I love that. In the 60s, they would have sun decks and get people outside. Oh my God, that's so amazing. I didn't know that about hospitals.
Yeah, well, way back at the beginning of earlier in the century, that was
Oh,
right. And
earlier.
so,
Okay.
in 1920s, whatever,
20s. Okay.
that type of time frame. A lot of people had 20s and 30s. A lot of places had put all the patients outside, and
Yeah.
they got better sooner.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I feel like sometimes sun gets a bad rap. It's, people are like, oh, don't get too much sunlight. You need to put on sunscreen and instead of like what you're saying, the positive effects of it.
Right. Well, here's the deal. Fascinating studies. Big concern. We've been the whole message about staying out of sunlight and all the rest of it, and skin cancers.
Yeah.
The huge education campaign on that, right?
Yes.
But so they did a major study in Sweden. They had 29,000 women, and they followed as to how much time they spent outdoors as opposed to indoors. And they were expecting to see much more skin cancers in the people. They were trying to develop, what was the safe amount of sun exposure. But as they followed these women for 10 to 15 years, they found that the women who stayed indoors died sooner. I mean, they lived less long, and the people who went outside lived much longer. They got more skin cancers, but they lived much longer, right? And they lived healthy, much less cardiovascular disease, less heart disease. And that's been repeated now in major studies in England with 88,000 people. And they put light meters on them, so they knew exactly how much light they're getting and not getting across the day and night. So all that's now shown us that this effect of light is so powerful, and scaremongering about going outside. Now, is it true that if you go out in the midday sun in the really bright beach and get really burnt, that's not really healthy, good for you? But we're talking about getting outside for an hour in the morning if you can.
Yeah.
Before the sun's reached its peak. That's the ideal time to do it. Reduces the risk of the cancers, has a big effect on your health and well-being. So no, it's a big message. We're changing around how people need to think. So not to miss the fundamental teaching points, Carissa. One is get out in the mornings of sunlight and get in daylight.
Yeah, you recommend an hour. You recommend an hour.
An hour if you can, even half an hour will do much better. Get out and take a walk, take the dog for a walk, go for a jog, whatever, even sit out on a bench, whatever it takes to do, right? Get outside. Secondly, when you're indoors, try to stay near windows during the daytime.
I
In the
see.
evenings, use light that is free of blue. You need blue-free light. These LEDs are deadly in the evening hours. Don't use the standard LEDs. Use either yellow, orange light or the new lights that are relatively whitish in color coming out from Korrus, called the OIO light bulbs, for example.
Okay.
And those the lights that are zero blue content, right?
Yeah.
And in
Are
the
these
night,
light bulbs labeled? Like, do they say it on the package that you can
yeah,
find?
they
Okay.
do. Yeah, yeah. No,
Okay.
and you can look it up on the web, and it's sort of
Okay.
basic. It's circadian light. You're looking for circadian light bulbs,
Yeah.
and so by Korrus is one manufacturer
Yeah.
of them. There are other
Hmm.
manufacturers. And then in the nighttime, as I say, sleep in the dark, and just use very yellow night lights, dim light nights if you need them.
Hmm.
But basically sleep in the dark and do all of that on a regular basis. Try to keep it a regular pattern of when you sleep, when you wake, everything else. So
Yeah.
those are four fundamental tips for a
Yeah.
long and healthy life. And the evidence says that could increase your healthy lifespan by 5 years. The amount of evidence is huge.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for those tips, getting those in. I appreciate it. And I thought I was getting outside. I think I get outside more than my kids, embarrassingly. I mean, getting them outside is a struggle. I mean, it's really interesting because I used to live outside as a kid. I mean, I would just play for hours with the kids in the neighborhood, and it just feels like they want to watch TV and they want to play indoors, and it's not even that cold out, you know? And so it's like now I'm seeing maybe there's a correlation with a rise in children's cancers and not being outside as much.
Yeah, childhood obesity, childhood diabetes, cancers, and so forth. Absolutely. And we talked briefly about, I mentioned myopia. Let's define
Oh,
that.
yeah, we didn't even get into that.
Yeah, short-sightedness, right? In other words, where people need eyewear to correct their eyesight. Now, and particularly in Asia, where the kids are spending a lot of time inside, what's happening is that the
Oh,
rate is going up from towards 50% of kids
oh, if they
needing
spend
eyewear.
indoors, because a lot of times there's the pollution, the air quality
Yeah,
is not as good, right?
yeah.
Okay.
But they spend a lot of time indoors, and kids these days, yeah, like you, I spent my time outside playing in the yard, playing by the stream, trying to fish tadpoles or whatever it is out of the streams. I was out
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
outside most of the time, right? That was fun. So that was what we did. But these time, kids are glued to their phones, to their screens, and that leads to that lack of daylight. And by the way, indoors, even near a window, you don't get some of this light because the windows these days tend to block the UV. They block the infrared,
Oh,
so you
because
get a rather
people are looking for that. They
yeah
want it to do that. But what
yeah
about cars, car windows? Do they also
Car
block
windows are
UV?
blocked. Yeah, oh yeah.
They
And
do, yeah.
even your eyewear, by the way, blocks the ultraviolet. We're now learning, some people are saying, wow, why are we taking out the light that actually helps the eyes keep healthy by putting on eyewear? So if you have
Yeah.
kids with myopia and you give them plain glasses as opposed to the standard glasses that have UV blocking in them, then myopia gets better, right?
Oh
Crazy.
my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But how do you find those kind of glasses? You have to
Yeah,
sell
well,
those too?
yeah. Well, that's right. I mean, we've got to really rethink
Oh my
life.
God.
And so I think we've got getting a very good handle on what the problems are and what the solutions are. The problem is getting the products now out there available, because we've reached this peak of unhealthy lighting, and unhealthy environment, as a
Mhm.
result, indoor environment,
Yeah.
that we need to. It's a major breakthrough opportunity in terms of health and well-being.
Yeah, and I think the lighting, I'll just have to say, the lighting in offices and schools in general are awful.
Yeah.
I, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, have you had many corporations or schools, universities implement your solution site-wide? I just want to, you don't have to name out companies, but I'm just wondering, I'm curious.
Well, we were able to, when we first developed the new LED lights that are automatically changing from blue rich day to blue
Yes.
free in the evenings, um, we were able to get them installed in 65 Fortune 500 companies. Some,
Great.
some of the and we're able to
And
show they're very effective
in
and these
those
are
companies.
in
And
those
those
companies.
are they were motivated because you were able to show an increase in productivity and efficiency with the shift workers. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
In other words, reducing errors, reducing absenteeism, improving morale, performance, and so forth. Sleep was improved before and after night shifts. So yes, we were able to demonstrate that. And that was really proving that all out. And as I say now, the challenge is getting a sufficient array of types of lights available that will meet all the different requirements that people have, because there are just literally millions of different types of light fixture that are out there. It's a strange world. Most lighting companies have millions of SKUs, but we're trying to get that steadily now, and so that's one of the things we're doing. And at circadianlightpoint.org,
Okay.
we keep track of that, and we're building up, catalog and so forth
Oh,
of
wow.
what types of lights are available. But yes, no, there are lots to do in lighting and big opportunities. And
Yes.
I think the science is in a great shape right now. The biggest problem is education, which is why I'm delighted, Carissa, to do podcasts like I'm doing with you, spreading
Yes.
the word out as widely as we can to the various audiences that need it.
Yes, spreading your light.
That's right. That's right.
I I feel like it's the light Superman instead of the light doctor. So, so I want to talk about blue blocking glasses for a moment because that's a thing now and people are wearing them. So, are they blocking the right frequency of blue, or are there glasses that block the right blue?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of so-called blue blocking glasses blocking entirely the wrong blue. And this is
Okay.
one of the problems, including some of the biggest manufacturers of
Oh
eyewear.
no.
You go in there, and the optician says, "Well, I can add this blue blocking thing to your glasses,
Yes. And most people would say yes, right?
and I charge you $200 more for your prescription." And they've got this really nice little blue tint to them when you look at them. It looks jazzy. And the bottom line is it's entirely the wrong blue. The blue you need to block is one whereby the actual color of the glasses is going to be more yellow orange in color, because you need it.
Oh,
That's a giveaway. If the glasses aren't yellow orange in color, they're not blocking that critical blue we need. And so
oh,
it's really a buyer beware. Blue blocking is a very vague term right now, and but we've got there are glasses that are designed very specifically to block the right blue, and again, some of those you can read about on our websites and so
oh,
forth.
perfect. Yay, you have all the solutions. So I did want to touch on your book. You've talked about it a little bit, The Light Doctor, the science and solutions for replacing your lights now to protect your health. So, what can we expect to discover in reading your book?
Well, the book is written for the general layperson. It's not for the scientist, it's written for people who want to
Perfect.
understand light. So it really tells the story of the problem that have developed with artificial lights, the health problems. It tells the story of why that is, the discovery of the circadian clock in the brain and how it's synchronized by light, but also talks about the inventions and why they work and how to look for what's effective or not. Also spend time talking about the effect on the other 8.7 million species on the planet. In other words, all those animals outside our homes that live in the wild, they're grossly affected by the lights we put outside, outdoor lighting.
I
Um,
did learn
and,
about that. That's
yeah,
important.
it's a
Yeah.
huge effect. So the number of, the insects are diminished, the birds are diminished, and the crops don't grow as well, and all sorts of things, just because we like to light up everything in our world outside because we think it looks pretty. And so that's another side of it. But basically, looking at, therefore, that whole impact of light. So it's basically your introduction to it. And then the book is the introduction. As I say, it's a bestseller on Amazon. People all over the world are reading it. What's happened now is I then started my Substack newsletter, like Dr. Martin Moore-Ede at Substack or .substack. And that is a bi-weekly newsletter that updates people on the latest developments. In other words, as this science is developing, the products are coming available, and it sort of continually updates. But the book is the core message, and then then I have bi-weekly articles that come out in the Substack. So, yeah, it's an education going on. I think we're really developing momentum here, and there are opportunities to sign up and get involved in campaigns for healthy lighting, and so forth. So I encourage people to join the movement of the campaign for healthy lighting. We need it in our lives.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Amazing. So last question, what is Zen success to you?
Well, I think success is changing the whole mindset for me about light, understanding the vital important nature that light was one of the most important shapers of our world throughout human history. We think we got very smart by inventing electric light, enables us to do all sorts of things that used to be when they used to be in the dark. But we got pretty dumb about the electric light we invented and realized if it looks the same, it doesn't necessarily be the same. In other words, we can mimic white light from the sun, or white yellowish light, but it's radically different composition. And so what really matters is having people understand it's the composition of light that matters, just like food. In other words, the food may taste good, may look good, but it may be junk food. In the same way, light may look good and be readily available, but it's junk light. So we need to understand the difference in health light and junk light and do something about it. And that can radically shape our life, well-being, our longevity, and so forth. So it's one of the key things we can do to really improve the human condition.
Oh, wow. That is a very specific definition. Thank you for that. Well, it's been such a pleasure learning about your research and hearing your wisdom. And everybody check out his book, The Light Doctor, The Science and Solutions for Replacing Your Lights Now to Protect Your Health. And I'll put all the websites and how to buy his book in the show notes. And thank you so much for being on my show today, Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Carissa. I'm delighted to be chatting with you.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey. And join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.